Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Sabatus. I'm a consultant in the Performance Office at the Connecticut State Department of Education. This is one in a series of recorded sessions on using the CSDE's data reporting portal EdSight to support Connecticut's English learner, multilingual learner student population. This student population are English learners and that they're working to develop their level of English language proficiency, but they're also multilingual in that they have a level of proficiency in more than one language. At the end of school year 22-23, there were more than 50,000 LML students in Connecticut public schools. Together, they account for more than 10% of all Connecticut public school students. This session is about the Lost Links Growth Report in EdSight Secure. The federal educational law, ESSA, mandated states to track the growth of their LML students towards English language proficiency. In response, the CSDE created an ELP growth model. And specifically, it took the areas of oral and literacy that are in the ELP assessment that Connecticut uses, which is the Lost Links, to establish growth targets for students. Oral is the average of the listening and speaking subtests. Literacy is the average of the reading and writing subtests. And specifically, when we talk about targets, we're talking about the increment, the score increment that we're looking for students to increase their vertical scale score from one year to the succeeding year. The targets were based on analysis of Connecticut Lost Links results. And the targets are also designed to move students to proficiency within 5 school years. Students are only included in the Lost Links growth report and accountability if they have vertical scale scores for 2 consecutive school years. Now, the Lost Links growth information is included in the CSDE's next generation accountability system. And we'll see specifically what that looks like as we begin to talk about the report. But if you're interested in finding more about the Lost Links growth, how it was developed, how it's applied, how does it relate to accountability, by clicking on the resource tab in the report, there's a link to the technical paper on the Lost Growth Model, and there's also a recorded video on it. Returning to the report, what we see here in this graph for literacy and oral, we see, first of all, a result, a percentage for what's called the growth rate in blue here. And the growth rate is simply the percent of students who met their individualized targets. And just to be clear, those individualized targets are they're set based on a student's level of proficiency in the prior school year. So from one year to next, what was their performance level in year 1 determines what their target is in year 2. So we're taking into account a student's level of proficiency, and that's what makes these individualized targets. So this metric here is just what percent of students met their individualized target. So for literacy, 24.9%, oral, 29.2%. And just stepping back for a second, hovering over any portion of a graph in EdSight Secure provides you additional information. You see the metrics that are provided, but you also see the frequency of the students included behind any metric. And let's say you want to know who are these specific students. You can just double click on any portion of any graph in EdSight Secure, and you get the list of students who are included. And if you wanted to print that, you can select print object and print out the list, or you can choose to export the data to get a Excel workbook downloaded to your computer, and specifically your download folder, with the information on who these students are. So when you click export, you get this list of all the different pieces of information that are available for that download. And let's say there's some information that you're not interested in having. All you have to do is unclick the box next to them, and that won't be, and that piece will not be included in the report. But once you've selected all the fields that you're interested in, you just click OK. And then that Excel workbook is downloaded to your folder. Now the green bar for both of these graphs is called average percentage of target achieved. And what this means is, what percent is a student meeting of their target? So for a collective, for a group, on average, for a particular group, whether it's the district level, a school level, or a grade level, what percentage is this group of students meeting their growth target? So let's say, just making it up, you have 10 students at a school, and each of them had a growth target of 50 scale score points. So the amount of that they were meant to or expected to increase their vertical scale score from one year to the next. So collectively, you're looking for an increase of 50 scale score points. But let's say that in reality, what happens is they grow 300 scale score points. So you take that 300 of the actual growth divided by the expected, which was 500, and that's 60%. So what you can say is the average growth across a group of students was 60%, that they were meeting 60% of their individual targets. Now, for accountability purposes, this average is very important, because the way ELP growth is baked into the accountability model is that for schools or districts can earn 50 points for growth towards literacy proficiency, and 50 points of growth for growth towards oral proficiency. And the number of points that a school could earn is based on multiplying the APTA by that 50 points that are total 50 points that are available. So if the APTA for a school is 50%, 50% times 50 is 25. So a school would earn 25 for, say, literacy. And then you do the same for APTA. If the APTA was 10%, 10% times 50 is 5. And that would be the number of points that would go towards a school's total next generation accountability score. So in terms of the report and using the report, this is what the report looks like. And for any graphs, it should also be noted that for any graphs that are in EdSight Secure, you can export them. You could print them or you can export them and use them in meetings with your staff, or maybe an administrator or your board of ed. There are a lot of filters that you can use in this report. And I think the most important first decision is right here. There are two views of the data that you can have. Tested district. When you select that, the students who you're seeing are those that your district actually tested. So you may have had them for a while, you gave them the test, they were with you at the time of the testing was done. And I think this view of the data is really quite appropriate when you're trying to answer the question, how are we doing? When you're trying to get at the performance of your district. So you want to see those kids that you yourself tested and perhaps you had a while. Current district are those students who have Lost Links growth information. However, they might not have taken the Lost Links with you. They might have been in another district when they took their Lost Links. But they're with you now, so you're able to see their growth information. And I think current district, that view, is really appropriate for programmatic planning purposes. You have these set of filters, and we're going to look at each one of them in turn. These set of filters give you a subset of the information. They give you that view of just this particular group. So let's say you are choosing a school, or choosing school A. Okay, these are just the results for school A. All of these filters function in the same way. Whatever you select, that's the group, and only that group is what you're going to be seeing. The filters on the side allow you to do comparisons. So it's the same set of values, but on the side, they allow you to do comparisons. So let's say you want to compare two schools. So let's compare schools A and C. And so we've selected A and C from the middle, and we're going to select school to say we want to see the results by school. So a good way to know what you're looking at any particular time, you get a message here that allows you to say, okay, to show what filters have you applied so you know what data you're looking at. So right now we're looking at the results for 22-23. We're looking at school A or school C, and we know we're making a comparison between the two. Now, schools A and C may not have the exact same grades. So we want a more apples to apples comparison. So we're going to say, okay, for the students in year 2, Y means year 2, we're going to look at grade, and we're interested in the middle school grades. So now part of our comparison is going to be not just by school, but also by grade. So that's why we've now applied 2 filters, school and grade. So now we're going to make apples to apples comparisons of school A and school C by grade. The truth is there's a lot of power here in being able to apply these different filters and different combinations to be able to see results in many different ways. So school year gives you an option. The growth data go back to 2016, 2017. So let's say you're interested in maybe looking at trend data. So you've selected the last 3 years of school data that's available. And you want to see how the results look over time. So this is the results for the whole district over these 3 years for oral and literacy. So let's clear these filters. Okay. You also can filter the data to look at students who were in your district over the course of whatever years you're selecting using the same district button. So by saying, yes, I want to see students who were in my district both years, because I really want to see just how our kids who we've had for a while are performing. So let's say, yes, students who were in the district in both 21-22 and 22-23. Let's see some trend data for them. So now we can track students who we've had for a while and see how has their performance changed over those 2 years. Similarly, let's say you're interested in the performance of a particular school, school A, and we also want to do the same thing. We want to see students who have been with school A and their growth information reflects them being in that same school over this entire period of time. So now again, we can sort of do that comparison of kids that we've had for a while. How are they performing? Let's close that. Another option you have too is to look at what was a student's performance level in year one. So remember, the growth targets are based on a student's performance in year one, their performance level. That's where the targets come from. So you might want to see across performance level how students are doing in meeting their targets. So let's say we're interested in all of those students who hadn't yet met math, who hadn't yet demonstrated proficiency. And we're going to see. So we've asked for performance levels 1 through 3, and we've gone over to the right-hand side, and we've said, okay, we want to make comparisons by the performance category in year one to see our results. And again, remember, just as a reminder, you can always export this data or print it. And you can always click on a bar to see who are the students behind this information. And again, you can always print that information or export it. And that's really the great thing that's about EdSight Secure, is you can generate these aggregate figures, but then you can drill down to the individual students behind the numbers. Other filters that are available include demographic ones like gender, race and ethnicity, and special education status. Really, the great thing with this tool is there's just so many opportunities to do different comparisons, to look at the data so many different ways, to understand your student population. An interesting thing to look at too is your students who in year one were proficient or better, because their growth target from 1 year to the next is just that they maintain proficiency. Their scale scores can decline. They don't have a numeric scale score. They just have to maintain proficiency. That's their goal. And so it's interesting. Let's clear that. So it would be interesting to see for those students who we know already attained proficiency and had to take the last links again because they did not meet the English mastery standard and exit L status. How many of them, what percentage of them were able to maintain proficiency? And again, this is just kind of made up data, but you might be curious about those students who didn't meet, who weren't able to maintain proficiency from 1 year to the next. And again, and you can do that. You can look for your students and download their information. Another tab that's of information that's available in the Lost Links growth report is the student level data. So for any year you select, you can see all the students who have growth information. Let's clear our filters. Okay. So this is the district level information. And let's say you were looking for the results for one particular student. You have a couple of options. You can search for their information by entering in their SACID, and that's their 10-digit unique state-issued identifier. If you don't know their SACID, you could also search by their name, their last name. If you know their school or their grade, you can also use those filters too to try and find a particular student. Now, with any list of students, with any table like this in EdSight Secure, you're able to tailor it to your taste and your needs. So let's say you can always rearrange the columns. So for example, let's say you want the identifier to be further up in the report. You click on it, you hold it, and you drag that column to where you want. Clicking and moving that column to where in the report you want the information to be displayed. You can also sort these columns ascending and descending. And of course, you can export the information or you could print it. So this gives you a powerful ability for rostering students depending on whatever your criteria are. They could be for a particular school or a particular combination of a school and a grade. So you can give this information perhaps to members of staff who are responsible for that group of students. You can also apply these filters. And just as an aside too, if you're looking for the information for a particular student, in addition to using the SACID, the name, or any combination of the filters here, I would suggest that if you're looking for growth information for a student, that you click all of the years. Because the LML population is particularly mobile, it happens that students do not have last link's information for all years or the most recent year, but they may have information going back a year or two or maybe three. And so that's why it's important to click all of those years if you're looking for information about one particular student. So in rostering, again, you have that option. Let's say you wanted to come up with a roster for staff. Click the current district because you're interested in your students who you have right now, and take the most recent year of information. And again, you can, depending on your purposes, what question you're trying to answer, you could be filtering to make sure those kids were in the district for the years that you're interested in. Let's say if you were looking at 22, 23 and their growth information, you want to know that they were with you in the baseline year and in the current year of data. Same thing for the school. And again, you've got the option to select a school or multiple schools at a time. You can also choose to have information about both literacy and oral or just one at a time. What's their grade this year? Performance level. So for example, in that last query that we were looking at in the report, if we were interested, let's say, in students in literacy and who in year 2 are in middle school, and they were a level 4 and 5 in year 1. In year 2, let's see, we don't have to use that filter, but we can go over here and say, okay, for growth, we want students who were, okay, so they were proficient or advanced or above proficient in year 1. In year 2, they missed their growth target. That is, they fell out of proficiency. Who are these students? So now you have the list of those kids which you can print or download. And just going through the report of information that you do get for the student level data, their basic school district information, name, demographics. As far as the assessment, the subtest. Each row for each year has its each subtest for each year has its own row. So this row here, literacy, student was in grade 1 in year 1, grade 2, or year 2, they were in grade 7. Some demographic information. And then what level were they at level 1, at year 1? So the student, and we know because we filtered for this, they were a level 4. In year 2, they fell to level 3, intermediate. So because they missed their target, their average percentage of target is 0. Their vertical scale score in year 1, 558, they fell to a 526 in year 2. They were in the same district, in the same school. Their growth rate is 0 because they missed the target. And their growth achieved, their target and their growth achieved were both 0. Now, if we picked other students in year 1, let's say, well, 1 students. And let's pick, yep, most recent year. So students who actually had a numeric target. I just wanted to show you that. So these students had a numeric target. And these were the number of vertical scale score points of growth that the student achieved and the average percent of their target that they achieved. So the last tab here is the resource tab, and we've kind of shown you that already. Just a reminder that you have information about the Lost Links growth model and a video about it, in addition to other information about English learners, and then some general information regarding navigating EdSight. Now, here's the landing page, the main page for EdSight Secure. I just want to bring your attention. There's a link to the EdSight resource library, which has information about different trainings for using EdSight, and then information about particular reports. A link if you have questions that puts you in touch with the EdSight team, and they are very responsive. So if you have a question, don't hesitate. Information about accessibility in EdSight Secure, and then a link to EdSight Public. Now, the Lost Links growth report is also in EdSight Public. And I think it using both the EdSight Secure results and EdSight Public results can be useful. So let's find the Lost Links growth report in EdSight Public. So let's say you've looked at your results in EdSight Secure. You have a pretty good sense of how your district has done, but you want to find a context. You want to understand, you want to put your numbers in a context and understand them in a broader picture. So Lost Links on the public site, you'll be able to find information at the state level. You can also drill down to the district level. And I would suggest that if you're going to do comparisons of your district results, think of a district who is similar to you in terms of the size of their LML population, and or economic or demographics, to make apples to apples comparisons. So you can use this filter to pull up a particular district. So I'm just pulling up Danbury here, and you can make comparisons at the district level and get their results. But you also have the option, once you pick a district, you can also see the results for them at the school level. So you can compare your schools with let's say that similar districts, schools, and again, put your results into a context, sort of identify your strengths and your weaknesses potentially by making those comparisons either with the state as a whole, another district, or another district schools. Thank you for your attention today. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck in exploring EdSight Last Link's growth report.